Captain Elena Vasquez stared out the window of her ship at the cold stars beyond Earth's solar system. The Defiance floated at the edge of human space, watching and waiting like it had done for the past 3 years. Elena knew every scratch on the alien monitoring station that hung in the darkness nearby. She had counted its lights so many times she could draw them from memory. "Another day in paradise," muttered Sergeant Mike Torres from his position at the weapons console. His fingers drummed against the metal surface as he watched the alien station through the sensors. Elena did not smile. There was nothing funny about their situation. Humanity had been trapped in their own solar system for 300 years. The aliens called it protection. They said humans were too dangerous to be allowed into the galaxy, too violent, too unpredictable. The galactic hegemony made the rules, and the rules were simple. Humans could live on Earth and the few colonies they had built in their own system. They could not go beyond. They could not explore. They could not meet other species as equals. The aliens watched everything humans did and decided what was safe. Dr. Sarah Kim walked onto the bridge carrying a data pad. Her face looked tired and angry. She had been working in the communications room for hours, listening to alien transmissions that they were not supposed to hear. "Captain, you need to see this," Sarah said. She handed Elena the data pad. Elena looked at the screen. The words were translated from the alien language, but their meaning was clear enough. Her hands gripped the pad tighter as she read. "They want to move us," Elena said quietly. "All of humanity," Sarah confirmed, "to something they call a designated preservation zone. Sounds like a prison to me." The transmission was from Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians were the most powerful members of the hegemony. They had beautiful golden skin and moved like dancers, but Elena had learned not to trust their grace. Beautiful predators were still predators. According to the message, the Hegemony Council had decided that humans were becoming too advanced. Earth scientists had developed new technologies that worried the aliens. Fusion drives that were too efficient. Computers that learned too quickly. Weapons that were too effective. "How long do we have?" Elena asked. "The main fleet arrives in 6 months," Sarah said. "They expect full human compliance within 1 year." Elena set down the data pad and walked to the main display screen. It showed a map of human space. Earth sat in the center like a blue jewel. Around it, the human colonies on Mars, Europa, and the asteroid belt looked like small dots of light. Beyond that, nothing but alien monitoring stations in the endless dark. "Have you told Earth Command?" Elena asked. "I sent the message an hour ago. They are calling an emergency meeting." Elena nodded. She had known this day would come. Humanity had been too peaceful for too long. They had accepted the alien rules and tried to prove they could be good neighbors. They had shared their science and their culture. They had asked politely to join the galactic community. The aliens had smiled and said maybe someday. Always someday. Never today. Lieutenant James Park spoke up from his station. "Captain, I am reading movement from the alien monitoring post. They are sending out a probe." Elena looked at the tactical display. The probe was small and fast, heading toward the inner system. It would reach Earth in 12 hours and scan everything. The aliens wanted to see how humans would react to the news. "Do they know we intercepted their transmission?" Elena asked. Sarah shook her head. "I do not think so. We have been very careful." Elena made a decision that would change everything. "James, prepare a narrow beam transmission to Earth Command. Tell them to prepare for immediate implementation of Protocol 7. James stared at her. "Captain, Protocol 7 has never been tested." "It has been tested," Elena said calmly. "Just not in the open." Protocol 7 was humanity's biggest secret. For 50 years, Earth's best scientists and engineers had been working on a plan. They called it the insurance policy. If the aliens ever decided that humanity needed to be removed, humans would be ready. The work had been done in hidden bases throughout the solar system. In asteroid mines where no alien eyes could see. On the dark side of moons where sensors could not reach. Humanity had learned to be very good at hiding things. "Send the message," Elena ordered. While James worked at his station, Elena thought about her daughter Maria back on Earth. She was only 8 years old and loved to draw pictures of spaceships flying to distant stars. Elena had always told her that someday they would take those trips together. Now she wondered if Maria would ever see those distant stars or if she would spend her life in an alien prison. "Message sent, Captain," James reported. "Good. Now we wait." The hours passed slowly. Elena watched the alien probe make its way toward Earth. She wondered what the aliens expected to find. Panic, desperation, Humans begging for mercy? They would be disappointed. At 1400 hours, Elena's communication system chimed. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than Elena remembered, but his eyes were sharp and focused. Captain Vasquez, he said, Earth Command has received your transmission. Protocol 7 is now active across all human territories. Understood, Admiral. What are your orders? Continue normal operations. Make no aggressive moves. Let them think we are helpless. Elena almost smiled at that. Helpless if the aliens only knew what humanity had built in the shadows, what they had learned from studying every piece of alien technology they could get their hands on, what they had discovered about alien biology during those peaceful diplomatic meetings. One more thing, Captain. Admiral Chen continued. Your ship has been selected for a special mission. You will receive detailed orders within the hour. The transmission ended. Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. They were good people. Torres had been with her for 5 years. Sarah was the best communications officer in the fleet. James was young but smart and fearless. How do you feel about making history? Elena asked them. Torres grinned. About time, Captain. Sarah nodded firmly. They have kept us in a cage long enough. James looked nervous but determined. What do we need to do? Before Elena could answer, the communication system chimed again. This time it was an automated message from Earth Command. Elena read the orders quickly and her expression grew serious. We are going to send a message to the galaxy, she said finally. A message they will never forget. The alien probe reached Earth's orbit and began its scan. It saw cities and factories and millions of humans going about their daily lives. It saw spaceships and satellites and the normal traffic of a civilized world. It did not see the weapons hidden in the asteroid belt. It did not see the ships being prepared in secret bases. It did not see the humans who were about to remind the galaxy why their world was called a death world. Elena watched the probe complete its scan and turn back toward the monitoring station. Soon it would report to Admiral Kethvar that humanity looked ready to surrender. That would be the aliens' first mistake. It would not be their last. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, and felt satisfied with himself. The massive Zephyrian dreadnought was the pride of the hegemony fleet, armed with weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been broken in 3 centuries of peace. Behind him, 200 ships of the hegemony fleet moved through space toward the human solar system. Each ship carried the finest technology in the galaxy. Each crew was trained in the art of civilized warfare. They would need none of it against the humans. Distance to the target system? Kethvar asked his tactical officer. 18 hours at current speed, Admiral, came the reply. Kethvar smiled, showing his perfect white teeth. His golden skin gleamed under the bridge lights, and his silver eyes held the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. The Zephyrians were beautiful, elegant, and absolutely certain of their place at the top of galactic civilization. Excellent. Prepare the diplomatic transmission. It is time to explain to the humans how this will work. The transmission was broadcast on all frequencies to ensure every human in the solar system would hear it. Kethvar had practiced the speech many times. His voice was calm and reasonable, like a parent explaining rules to a confused child. People of Earth, he began. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Galactic Hegemony. We come to you today with an offer of safety and protection. For too long, your species has struggled with the burden of your violent nature. We have watched you build weapons instead of gardens. We have seen you prepare for war instead of peace. On Earth, Dr. James Chen watched the transmission from his laboratory deep beneath the Himalayan mountains. Around him, rows of computers processed data that the aliens had never seen. Data about alien biology, alien technology, and alien weaknesses. The Hegemony Council has decided that humanity would be happier in a more suitable environment, Kethvar continued. We have prepared beautiful worlds where you can live in peace, free from the temptations that lead to conflict. You will be relocated over the next year to ensure your safety and the safety of the galaxy. Dr. Chen laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. He had been studying the aliens for 20 years, ever since the first diplomatic contact. He had learned their languages, their customs, and their dirty secrets. Relocation, he muttered to his assistant, Dr. Lisa Rodriguez. Such a nice word for genocide. Lisa looked up from her own work. She was analyzing genetic samples from dozens of alien species, looking for patterns that only a human scientist would notice. How many others have they relocated? She asked. 47 species in the last 1,000 years, James said. All of them showed promise. All of them developed technologies that worried the hegemony. All of them are now extinct. On the transmission, Kethvar was explaining how generous the hegemony was being, how they would provide transportation and housing for all humans, how they would make sure every human was comfortable in their new homes. "We understand this may seem sudden," the Admiral said, "but we have been planning this for your benefit. The worlds we have chosen are peaceful and beautiful. You will have everything you need to live happy lives." James pulled up a holographic display that showed the relocation worlds the hegemony had used before. Each one was the same. A planet with basic atmosphere and water, but no resources, no metals for technology, no energy sources for industry, nothing that would allow a species to develop beyond simple farming. "They put them on garden worlds," James explained to Lisa. "Beautiful places where nothing can go wrong, where nothing can be built, where curiosity and innovation slowly die, because there is nothing to explore and no challenges to overcome." The species that were relocated always started with hope. They built small communities and tried to maintain their culture, but without challenges, without the drive to explore and grow, they gradually lost their spark. Within a few generations, they became simple farmers who barely remembered the stars. On the surface, in the emergency command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Chen was coordinating humanity's response. The room was filled with officers from every human military organization, scientists from every major research facility, and leaders from every colony in the solar system. "Status report," Admiral Chen demanded. "All hidden bases are reporting ready," said General Martinez from Mars Command. "The asteroid belt facilities have completed final preparations. Luna Base has armed their defensive systems." "What about the special projects?" Admiral Chen asked. Dr. Elizabeth Harper stepped forward. She was the head of the Biological Defense Initiative, humanity's most secret research program. "Project Prometheus is ready for deployment. We have identified genetic markers specific to Zephyrian, Altarian, and vegan physiology. The agents are loaded and waiting for your order." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. For 50 years, every alien diplomatic mission to Earth had been carefully monitored. Every handshake, every shared meal, every medical scan had provided samples. Human scientists had learned exactly how alien biology worked and how to make it stop working. "And the other projects?" "Project Atlas is standing by," reported Colonel Sarah Kim from Europa Station. "All kinetic bombardment platforms are loaded and targeted. Project Hercules has deployed hunter-killer swarms throughout the outer system." Back on his flagship, Admiral Kethvar was finishing his speech. "We will arrive at your system in 18 hours. Please prepare for peaceful transfer to our transport vessels. Any resistance will be seen as a threat to galactic stability and will be dealt with accordingly." The transmission ended, and Kethvar turned to his staff officers. They were all Zephyrians, all beautiful, all absolutely confident in their superiority. "How do you think the humans will respond?" asked Captain Veltar, his second-in-command. "They will cry and beg and try to negotiate," Kethvar said with amusement. "They always do. Humans are emotional creatures. They cannot accept reality when it contradicts their desires. And if they refuse to cooperate, then we will demonstrate why the hegemony has maintained peace for 3 centuries. A few destroyed cities will convince them to be reasonable." What Admiral Kethvar did not know was that his entire fleet was already being tracked. Human sensors hidden throughout the solar system had been watching alien movements for decades. Every ship was catalogued. Every weapon system was analyzed. Every weakness was identified. On a small asteroid mining station that appeared to be abandoned, Captain Elena Vasquez received her final orders. Her mission was simple but crucial. She was to make first contact with the alien fleet in a way that would send a message to the entire galaxy. "Are we really going to do this?" asked Sergeant Torres as he looked at their targeting data. "They think we are helpless animals," Elena replied. "Time to show them what animals do when they are cornered." The Defiance had been rebuilt over the past 6 months. Its hull was reinforced with materials stronger than anything the aliens had ever seen. Its weapons were powered by fusion reactors that burned hotter than stars. Its crew was ready to make history. In his laboratory, Dr. James Chen was putting the finishing touches on humanity's gift to the hegemony. Microscopic machines that would be invisible to alien sensors, but would carry a very clear message about human technological capabilities. They wanted to see what humans do when threatened, he said to Lisa. I think they are about to find out, Admiral. Kethvar looked at the stars ahead and thought about the commendations he would receive for successfully relocating the human species. He imagined the ceremony where the Hegemony Council would praise his efficiency and wisdom. He had no idea that he was flying into the most carefully prepared trap in galactic history. In 18 hours, he would learn why humanity's home was called a death world. He would discover what happened when a species that had survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, and asteroid impacts decided that enough was enough. The countdown had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Hegemony fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the human solar system, exactly on schedule. Admiral Kethvar expected to see a primitive system with a few space stations and some basic defenses. Instead, his sensors immediately began screaming warnings. "What is that?" Captain Veltar asked, staring at the tactical display. The entire outer system was lit up with contacts. Hundreds of them. Ships, stations, weapons platforms, and objects that the alien computers could not identify. It was as if the humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. "Impossible," Kethvar muttered. "Our intelligence reports showed nothing like this." On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Elena Vasquez watched the alien fleet emerge from hyperspace and smiled coldly. "They look surprised," she said to her crew. "Should we hail them?" asked Lieutenant Park. "Oh yes," Elena said. "We should definitely say hello." The transmission from the human ship was broadcast on all frequencies so that every alien vessel could hear it. Elena's voice was calm and professional, but her words carried the weight of 3 centuries of anger. "Admiral Kethvar, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Human Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space. You have exactly 1 hour to turn around and leave. This is your only warning." On the alien flagship, several officers laughed. The idea that humans could threaten the mighty Hegemony fleet was absurd. "Respond to their transmission," Kethvar ordered. "Explain to them that resistance is futile." But before the communications officer could reply, something impossible happened. The human ship, which was barely 1/10 the size of the alien flagship, fired a single projectile. It was not an energy beam or a missile. It was a simple metal rod, no bigger than a telephone pole moving at 10% the speed of light. When it hit the Eternal Glory shields, the impact released energy equivalent to a nuclear weapon. The alien shields held, but alarms began blaring throughout the flagship. Kethvar stared at his damage reports in disbelief. "How did they generate that much kinetic energy?" he demanded. His science officer looked terrified. "Admiral, they must have accelerated that projectile using a gravity sling around their star. The engineering required would be what? Beyond anything we thought they were capable of." Throughout the solar system, humanity's real defenses were coming online. On Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt, massive railguns emerged from camouflaged hangars. Each weapon was kilometers long and could fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. On Europa, missile batteries that had been disguised as ice mining equipment revealed their true purpose. The missiles they launched were not explosive. They were worse. Each one carried a cloud of microscopic machines designed by Dr. James Chen to interface with alien technology in very unfriendly ways. "Admiral," reported the tactical officer on the Eternal Glory, "we are detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. Multiple targeting systems are locking onto our ships." Kethavar's beautiful golden skin had turned pale. This was not how the operation was supposed to proceed. The humans were supposed to surrender or die quickly. They were not supposed to have weapons that could threaten hegemony vessels. "All ships advance to Earth immediately," he ordered. "We will deal with their defenses when we reach the primary planet." The alien fleet began moving toward the inner system, but they quickly discovered that the humans had prepared for this as well. Hidden among the asteroids, swarms of small automated ships began emerging. Each drone was no bigger than a fighter, but they moved with inhuman precision and coordination. Captain Elena watched the drones deploy and felt proud of her species. The machines had been built using human creativity and alien technology in ways the aliens had never imagined. Each drone was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could learn and adapt faster than any organic pilot. "Commence Operation Payback," Elena ordered. The drone swarms fell on the alien fleet like angry wasps. They were too small for the big alien weapons to target effectively, but they carried fusion warheads powerful enough to damage even the largest ships. More importantly, they carried Dr. Chen's special gifts. When the first drones reached the alien ships, they attached themselves to the hulls and began releasing their nanomachine payloads. The microscopic machines quickly spread through the alien vessels, taking control of computer systems, life support, and weapons. "Admiral," screamed the communications officer aboard the Eternal Glory, "we are losing control of ship systems across the fleet." Kethavar watched in horror as his perfect formations began to break apart. Ships veered off course as their navigation systems were compromised. Weapons fired randomly as their targeting computers were infected. Life support systems began cycling atmospheres to poisonous mixtures. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. His science officer was frantically working at his station. "The nanomachines are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to be using our own computer protocols against us. It is as if they know our systems better than we do." They did. For 50 years, human scientists had studied every piece of alien technology they could obtain. Every diplomatic gift, every trade sample, every piece of wreckage from accidents had been analyzed down to the molecular level. Humans knew exactly how alien computers worked because they had been planning for this day, but the nanomachines were just the beginning. As the alien fleet struggled with their compromised systems, the real human weapons began to fire. From hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, kinetic bombardment platforms launched their projectiles. Each shot was precisely calculated to arrive at the same time, overwhelming alien defensive systems through sheer volume. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could coordinate attacks across millions of kilometers with perfect timing. They had never fought opponents who had turned an entire solar system into a weapon. "Emergency hyperspace jump," Kethavar ordered. "All ships retreat immediately." But the humans had planned for that too. As the alien ships tried to enter hyperspace, they found their jump drives failing. The nanomachines had infected those systems as well, preventing escape. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold from his command center. Every human military leader in the solar system was connected to the same tactical network, sharing information and coordinating responses in real time. "Phase 2, he ordered. Throughout the solar system, the real human fleet began to emerge from hiding. These were not the patrol ships the aliens had been watching. These were warships built in secret over decades, using technology that combined human innovation with reverse-engineered alien systems. Each ship was crewed by humans who had grown up in the harsh environments of space colonies. They could survive in conditions that would kill most aliens. They could make repairs in vacuum using tools the aliens had never imagined. They could fight with a coordination that came from growing up in communities where everyone depended on everyone else. Captain Elena brought the Defiance alongside, an alien cruiser that was spinning helplessly out of control. Her crew had practiced this maneuver hundreds of times in secret. "Boarding teams, prepare for assault," she ordered. The humans did not use transporters or shuttles. They used magnetic boots and pressure suits to walk across the void between ships. When they reached the alien hull, they cut through it with tools designed for asteroid mining. The aliens inside the ship had never seen anything like the humans who poured through the breach. The boarding teams moved with mechanical precision, using weapons designed for hunting in the dark depths of space. They had trained for combat in zero gravity while the aliens had grown up in comfortable worlds with normal gravity. Within minutes, the alien cruiser had been captured. Its crew was alive but unconscious, overcome by gas that was harmless to humans but put most alien species to sleep. Throughout the solar system, the same scene was being repeated. Human boarding teams were capturing alien ships while the drone swarms disabled others. The kinetic bombardment continued, but now it was precisely targeted to avoid destroying vessels that could be taken intact. Admiral Kethavar found himself trapped on a ship that no longer obeyed his commands. Surrounded by a fleet that was being systematically destroyed or captured by an enemy he had completely underestimated. "Send a transmission to the Hegemony Council," he ordered desperately. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcement." His communications officer tried, but nothing happened. The nanomachines had cut all external communications. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Elena received a priority transmission from Earth Command. "Captain Vasquez, you are ordered to capture Admiral Kethavar alive. We have questions for him." Elena smiled. She had questions too. Questions about the 47 species that had been relocated over the centuries. Questions about what the aliens had really been planning for humanity. Understood, she replied. Beginning final approach to the alien flagship. The hegemony had come to relocate humanity to a prison world. Instead, they were about to discover what happened when you threatened a species that had learned to survive by turning their entire world into a weapon. The death world had awakened, and it was hungry. Admiral Kethavar sat in what had once been his ready room, now converted into a human interrogation chamber. The beautiful Zephyrian had lost his composure completely. His golden skin was pale, and his silver eyes darted nervously around the room. Across from him sat Dr. James Chen, who had arrived aboard the captured flagship just hours after the battle ended. The human scientist looked tired but satisfied as he reviewed the alien databases his team had extracted. 47 species, James said quietly, not looking up from his datapad. In 1,000 years, your hegemony has relocated 47 species that showed potential. All of them are now extinct. Kethavar said nothing. There was nothing to say. The humans had access to everything now. Every secret file, every classified report, every record of the hegemony's systematic elimination of potential rivals. The Vakari were poets and philosophers, James continued. They developed quantum consciousness transfer. You relocated them to a world with no quantum materials. The Nethic were master engineers who built ships that could survive black holes. You put them on a planet with no metals. Captain Elena Vasquez entered the room carrying another datapad. Her face was grim as she sat down beside James. Admiral Chen sends his compliments, she said. The search of the other ships is complete. We found the biological weapons they were planning to use if humans resisted relocation. James looked up sharply. What kind of biological weapons? Engineered viruses designed to target human genetics specifically. They were not planning to relocate us at all. They were planning to sterilize our species and claim our resources. Kethavar finally spoke. You do not understand. Your species is dangerous. You multiply too quickly. You adapt too fast. You innovate without considering consequences. Left unchecked, you would destabilize the entire galaxy. Like we are doing right now? Elena asked coldly. On Earth, the mobilization was unlike anything in human history. Every space station, every colony, every hidden base was contributing to the war effort. Admiral Chen stood in the expanded command center, now the size of an aircraft hangar, coordinating operations across dozens of star systems. Fleet status? He asked his aide. 200 ships completed and ready for deployment, Colonel Martinez reported. Another 300 will be ready within the month. The shipyards are operating at maximum capacity. These were not the ships the aliens had seen in the solar system. Those had been the defensive fleet, built to protect human space. These new vessels were designed for something else entirely. They were built for war among the stars. Each ship incorporated everything humanity had learned from studying alien technology, but built according to human engineering principles. They were robust instead of elegant, redundant instead of efficient, designed to keep fighting even when half their systems were destroyed. What about the crews? Admiral Chen asked. Every human who can handle zero-gravity combat has volunteered, reported General Kim from Luna Base. We have more volunteers than ships. The colonies are producing trained spacers faster than we can build vessels for them. This was humanity's greatest advantage. While other species needed years of training to operate in space, humans had been born in harsh environments. Children who grew up on asteroids mining stations could repair hull breaches in vacuum before they turned 10. Teenagers from the outer colonies could pilot ships through asteroid fields that would challenge alien computers. Phase 3 is approved, Admiral Chen announced. Begin liberation operations. The first target was obvious. According to the captured alien records, there were still survivors on 3 of the relocation worlds. Species that had been moved within the last century and had not yet died out completely. Captain Elena commanded the task force sent to the nearest relocation world. The Defiance had been upgraded with alien technology, but more importantly, it carried something the aliens had never expected to see again. Dr. Yelkan, Elena said to the figure standing beside her on the bridge, "Are you ready to go home?" The alien looked human at first glance, but closer inspection revealed the subtle differences that marked him as Nethic. His people had been relocated 80 years ago. Yelkan had been a child then, but he remembered the stars his people had once sailed between. "More ready than you can imagine, Captain," he replied. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the Nethic relocation world to find exactly what they expected. A beautiful garden planet with a small population living in simple agricultural communities. No technology beyond basic farming tools. No way to contact the outside galaxy. No hope? Life signs are concentrated in 12 settlements, reported the tactical officer. Population approximately 50,000. Elena nodded sadly. The Nethic had once numbered in the billions across dozens of worlds. These 50,000 were all that remained of a species that had built ships capable of surviving neutron stars. Begin landing operations, she ordered. But remember, they have been isolated for 80 years. They may not trust us immediately. The first human shuttles landed near the largest Nethic settlement just as the local sun was setting. Elena led the landing party personally, with Dr. Yelkan beside her as translator and proof that not all hope was lost. The Nethic who came to meet them were thin and tired. They wore simple clothes made from plant fibers and carried farming tools instead of the advanced technology their species had once mastered. But their eyes still held intelligence, and when they saw Yelkan, several of them began to weep. "Is it true?" asked the settlement elder in the Nethic language. "Have you come from the stars?" "We have come to take you home," Elena replied through Yelkan's translation. "All of you, to the stars where you belong." Word spread quickly through the settlement and then to the others. The humans had come with ships and weapons and technology, but more importantly, they had come with hope. Hope that the long exile was ending. Hope that the Nethic would sail between stars again. But the liberation of the relocation worlds was only the beginning. While Elena's task force rescued the survivors, other human fleets were spreading throughout the galaxy with a different mission. They carried a message. A transmission that told the story of the hegemony's crimes and humanity's response. The message was broadcast on every frequency in every known alien language to every world in the galaxy. The message was simple. The hegemony had been lying for 1,000 years. They were not protectors. They were predators who eliminated any species that might challenge their dominance. But now there was an alternative. Humanity offered alliance instead of domination, partnership instead of servitude, the chance to explore the galaxy as equals instead of subjects. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had been under hegemony control for centuries began to revolt. Worlds that had been paying tribute for generations stopped their payments. Military commanders who had served the hegemony out of fear began switching sides. On the hegemony capital world of Zephyr Prime, the ruling council met in emergency session. Council leader Athenvar listened to the reports with growing horror. "The humans have liberated 4 relocation worlds," reported the military commander. "They have broadcast evidence of our relocation program to every world in the galaxy. We are receiving reports of rebellions in 17 sectors. How many ships do they have?" Athenvar demanded. "Unknown. Our intelligence networks have been completely compromised. They seem to appear wherever they choose to strike." This was the second phase of humanity's plan. While the main fleets engaged in liberation operations, smaller groups of ships were conducting what they called missionary work. They visited every world they could find, sharing technology and offering alliance to anyone willing to stand against the hegemony. The aliens discovered that humans had a talent for making friends. Where the hegemony ruled through fear and superiority, humans offered genuine partnership. They shared their technology freely and asked for nothing but friendship in return. More importantly, they proved that the hegemony could be beaten. Every hegemony fleet that moved to stop the humans was either destroyed or captured. Every hegemony base that tried to resist was taken with minimal casualties. The humans fought with a coordination and flexibility that the aliens could not match. They used tactics that seemed insane until they worked. They took risks that should have been suicide until they succeeded. "We need to negotiate," one of the council members suggested. "Perhaps we can reach an accommodation with the humans," Athenvar laughed bitterly. "What do we have to offer them? They have our technology now. They have our allies turning against us. They have exposed our crimes to the galaxy. What could we possibly give them that they would want?" The answer came 3 days later when a human fleet appeared in orbit around Zephyr Prime. Admiral Chen's face appeared on every screen in the capital city as he delivered humanity's terms. "People of the Zephyr Empire," he said, "your leaders have committed crimes against 47 species. They have lied to you for 1,000 years about the nature of their rule, but you are not responsible for their choices." He paused, letting his words sink in. We offer you the same choice we have offered every species in the galaxy. Join us in building a true galactic community based on equality and cooperation. Help us create a future where no species need fear extinction for the crime of innovation. 6 months after the first human fleet had arrived at Zephyr Prime, the galaxy was a very different place. Council leader Athenvar stood in chains before a tribunal that included representatives from dozens of species, many of whom had been thought extinct. Dr. James Chen sat at the prosecution table, surrounded by evidence files that told the story of 1,000 years of systematic genocide. Beside him sat Dr. Yelkan of the Nethic, Ambassador Kesra of the Vakari, and leaders from 45 other species that had supposedly been relocated for their own safety. The evidence is clear, James said as he addressed the tribunal. The hegemony did not relocate these species to protect them. They moved them to prison worlds where they would slowly die out, removing potential challenges to Zephyrian dominance. The records were devastating. Every relocation had followed the same pattern. A species would develop technology or ideas that worried the hegemony leadership. Diplomatic pressure would be applied. When that failed, military force would relocate the entire population to carefully chosen worlds that lacked the resources necessary for technological advancement. But the relocations were only part of the plan, James continued. The biological weapons found aboard Admiral Kethvar's fleet proved that the hegemony was prepared to commit direct genocide when relocation was not sufficient. Athenvar's lawyer, a Zephyrian diplomat named Valessa, tried to mount a defense. The hegemony maintained peace for 1,000 years. Without strong leadership, the galaxy would have fallen into chaos and war. Peace built on hidden graves is not peace, replied Ambassador Kesra, speaking for the first time in 80 years in a galactic forum. It is simply successful oppression. The tribunal was being broadcast live throughout the galaxy. On every world, citizens watched as the true history of their civilization was laid bare. Many species discovered that relatives they thought had been lost to accidents or natural disasters had actually been murdered by their own government. Captain Elena Vasquez watched the proceedings from the bridge of the Defiance, now orbiting the former hegemony capital. Around her, the human fleet maintained order while the new galactic government took shape. Captain, reported Lieutenant Park, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Elena nodded. Put it through. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than he had 6 months ago, but there was satisfaction in his eyes. Captain Vasquez, I have new orders for you. The Galactic Liberation Council has approved the Deep Space Exploration Initiative. You and your crew have been selected to lead the first mission beyond hegemony space. Elena felt her heart race. For 300 years, humanity had been trapped in one solar system, watching the stars and dreaming of exploration. Now those dreams were about to become reality. What is our destination, Admiral?
The Andromeda Spiral.
Long-range sensors have detected artificial signals from that direction. It appears there may be civilizations beyond the local galactic group that the hegemony never contacted. Elena looked around her bridge at the crew that had started this revolution. Torres was grinning like a child. Park was already pulling up star charts. Dr. Kim was checking the scientific equipment they would need for a journey of that magnitude. When do we leave? Elena asked. As soon as you can prepare. The Council wants to establish contact before anyone else decides to build another empire. The transmission ended, and Elena turned to her crew. You heard the man. We have a galaxy to explore. On Earth, the changes were even more dramatic. The planet that had been a prison for 3 centuries was now the center of a new kind of galactic civilization. Instead of one species ruling over others, the new Galactic Liberation Council included representatives from every known intelligent species. Dr. James Chen had been appointed as the first Secretary of Interspecies Science, coordinating research projects that combined the knowledge and perspectives of dozens of different civilizations. The results were already exceeding expectations. The Vakari quantum consciousness research, combined with Nethic engineering and human computer science, has produced something remarkable, he told the Council during his weekly report. We can now transfer knowledge and skills directly between individuals of different species. What are the implications? Asked President Martinez, Earth's representative to the Council. We can teach an entire species new technologies in months instead of years. A Nethic engineer can learn human combat tactics by directly interfacing with a human soldier's memories. A human scientist can understand Vakari poetry by experiencing their emotional structures. It was the kind of cooperation the galaxy had never seen. Instead of each species developing in isolation, they were learning from each other at an incredible pace. Technologies that might have taken centuries to develop were being created in years, but perhaps the most important change was philosophical. The new galactic government was built on principles that the hegemony had never understood. Instead of maintaining stability through control, they encouraged innovation and exploration. Instead of eliminating differences, they celebrated diversity. The former relocation worlds were being transformed into research centers and universities. The Nethic were building ships again, but now they were designed with input from human engineers and Vakari philosophers. The result was vessels that could not only survive the death of stars, but could carry entire civilizations to safety if necessary. On Mars, the first interspecies colony was taking shape. Humans, Nethic, Vakari, and dozens of other species were learning to live and work together. Children grew up speaking multiple languages and thinking in ways their parents could never have imagined. The transformation was not without problems. Some species had difficulty adjusting to the new reality. Many Zephyrians struggled with the loss of their privileged position. Several worlds attempted to establish independent governments based on the old hegemony model. But these problems were addressed through negotiation and cooperation rather than force. When the Altarian colonies declared independence and attempted to establish their own empire, they were surrounded not by warships but by diplomats offering alternatives. "We understand your concerns," Ambassador Sarah Kim told the Altarian leadership. "You fear losing your identity in a galaxy of equals. But consider what you could gain instead." The negotiations took months, but eventually the Altarians agreed to join the new galactic community. They contributed their expertise in biotechnology to the common pool of knowledge and received access to technologies they could never have developed alone. Meanwhile, the search for other isolated species continued. Human exploration fleets, now accompanied by representatives from allied species, were spreading throughout the galaxy and beyond. They had found evidence of 17 more species that had been hidden or suppressed by the hegemony. Each discovery brought new knowledge and new perspectives. The Crixani had developed mathematics that made faster-than-light travel more efficient. The Moltar had created art forms that could directly stimulate emotion in other species. The Quinnis had learned to communicate with silicon-based life forms. "Every species we find makes us all stronger," Elena observed during her final report before departing for Andromeda. The hegemony was right about one thing. Diversity is dangerous. It is dangerous to stagnation, dangerous to oppression, and dangerous to anyone who thinks they have all the answers. The trial of the hegemony leadership had concluded with convictions for crimes against sapient life. But rather than execution or imprisonment, the sentences were designed to be constructive. Athenvar and his co-conspirators were required to spend the rest of their lives working to rebuild the civilizations they had destroyed. Justice is not revenge. Dr. James Chen had argued before the tribunal. Justice is making things right. As the Defiance prepared for its journey to Andromeda, Elena received one final transmission from Earth. It was from her daughter Maria, now 15 years old and attending the new Interspecies Academy on Luna. "Mom, I just wanted to say thank you," Maria said, her face glowing with excitement. "When I was little, you told me that someday we would visit the stars together. I never imagined it would be like this." Behind Maria, Elena could see classmates from a dozen different species, all working together on what appeared to be a starship design project. "We are designing a ship that could carry 1 million people to another galaxy," Maria continued. "My Nethic friend says it is possible if we combine their engineering with human determination and Vakari imagination." "Imagine that, Mom. 1 million people from 100 different worlds all exploring the universe together." Elena smiled as the transmission ended. That was the future humanity had fought for. Not dominance or revenge, but the chance to explore the universe as part of a community of equals. The chance to meet whatever waited in the dark between galaxies, not as conquerors but as friends. The Death World had awakened, but instead of bringing destruction, it had brought hope. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had intended. As the Defiance engaged its hyperdrive and leaped toward the distant spiral of Andromeda, Elena thought about the message they carried. They were no longer representatives of a single species trapped in one solar system.